What's happening, everybody? trueeevil here, and today I want to go over the big announcement that we got last night. I did go over it on Twitch when it was released and gave my first impressions, but now I've had time to really think about everything, bask in what we learned, and I just want to give my honest thoughts about how this is going to impact the game, and just give some of my feedback that I will be writing in a Discord post later. But before we begin, I want to just say thank you to everyone who reached out to me and gave me some good support and just really checked in on me to make sure I was okay. It really means a lot, and I love how awesome this community is. Even though there are some toxic people that want this game to go down, there are also a lot of people that want to see it succeed. So just really want to give a shout out to how great this community is. So without further ado, let's get on the video. So the first thing on here is they want to have more active dialogue within the community, and they just sort of talk about that a little bit. But what I think they should do is, it was really nice to get this announcement. I didn't know exactly when it was. I saw something on Discord saying that we were getting an announcement, but wasn't sure when. And what I would like to have happen for getting just like dialogue from the dev team is that there's a weekly update. If we know that every Wednesday we're going to get a dev letter that just talks about like the state of the game, that would be really cool. And if they want to get more feedback, what I think would be a really nice thing is they're talking about that they need feedback on certain things. Maybe talk about like having a poll, and if there's a couple of polls to get their just like general consensus of how things are going in the game, maybe make some fun ones like who's your favorite animus out of these, what's your favorite way to play RTA, what do you think is the biggest problem with RTA. Just making little polls like that to really just get like general consensus instead of just like going through the feedback section of the Discord. I think that would be really helpful, and it there were polls, it would make more people like click on the update. And just, if we know that we get a weekly update, well, we'll just feel better about communication. So that's my sort of like feedback on that going off the first part. Now let's go to the second part, the time sync. Now there are a lot of ways to fix this, and what they said is they're exploring ways to preserve the health of early game autoing while including smarter, less time intensive farming options for the late game. And there's just like a whole lot of options you can do to fix this. One option is when you unlock Inferno, it allows you to double the amount of runs. But if you don't want to do that and you consider like level 50 to still be early game, my suggestion on what to do is once you hit max level at level 100, you can double whatever your star count is on how many runs. For example, you can do 10 runs at 1 star, 16 runs at 2 star, and 30 runs at 3 stars. But you can only do that at level 100. And what that would do is it solves the early game autoing problem, because, well, if you think that's early Inferno is still like mid game, you know, they're completely at late game. And if you are level 100 at this game and you are still not being efficient with resources, well, honestly, this game is a resource management game. So if you mismanage your resources at that point, I don't know what to tell you. So that's my suggestion. Either at Inferno, double the amount of rates, or level 100, double your rates. Pick one. I don't care which one. Just do one. I think it'll make a lot of people happy. So with Ember Trek, I think this is actually one of the best updates that we're getting in this announcement, which is that on the next reset, we only have to beat the last boss, from what I'm understanding of normal, to go on to hard. Now, there are some things I would like to have clarified, because the tickets to do the spin wheel in Ember Trek, I believe they're random RNG how much you get of those tickets. So I would like to know how they're going to go about that. Are we going to get a set number of the spins from doing this? Is it still going to be random? Are we still going to get, I assume we're still going to get everything from doing the normal, but I want to know how they're going to deal with the RNG ticket amounts, because, well, its RNG number. How are they going to solve that with this? So would like that clarified, but I think this is great because the worst part of Ember Trek is not Ember Trek itself, it's that normal mode is identical to hard mode except with more damage and HP inflation. So having it just be like you have to do the hard mode is perfectly fine in my opinion. I just want to know how they're going to deal with the RNG rewards of Ember Trek going forward if they are going to implement this. So great thing, and anti-sync echoes, Union Boss. I like how the Union Boss we're going to do ×5. This is like one of the only things in PvE that you actually have to manual, and I like to have the challenge. Maybe the ×5 will be good because they are difficult for a lot of people. It takes a lot of time, but you know, it doesn't matter. It's just always a positive to get something like that. So great job. So the next thing is where I'm going to be like, I need to actually see what they're going to do with this before I can actually feel a certain way, because what is written is stuff that I don't think is good. So the first thing is that it mentions that they want to have more rewarding and player-friendly monetization options. When I think player-friendly, it means cheaper, right? But I don't think it's going to be cheaper. I think the lattices are still going to be $30. And then they put future purchases will focus more on value, choice, and utility. And honestly, because they put the word choice, what I think they're going to implement, this is only speculation, is something like in Nikkei where there's like the custom boxes you can buy in the game. And I honestly think that will improve sales of this game, because currently right now I'm a light spender and I know a bunch of whales who play this game, and if you're a whale or just anyone who spends in this game, there's only a couple of things you really spend on. The most important things I would say is the daily top up $5 monthly thing, the battle pass, and then after that it's the gold lattices. That's number one, and then how much of the gold lattice you spend is pretty big on that because they have it in $100 packs, $50 packs, etc. And then on top of that, I would say the only other thing kind of worth buying is dupe tickets. And that only really applies to like really high level RTA, where like if you're in top 10, you can really see that big difference between a max dupe Tiamat versus a Tiamat with only 3 dupes. So that's one thing I would mention, is that those are the only 2 real things people want. So having a utility box that's say like $30 and I can pick to have some gold lattice shards, get some dupe tickets, and something else in it. Maybe I can pick gold lattice shards twice or 3 times. Having like that as a weekly thing would be really cool thing to implement in the game, because I do think that'll make people buy. And then offering cheap daily stamina packs, honestly I wouldn't buy that. That's not something I would buy. I don't think anyone really wants to buy more stamina because, well, the drop rates are really bad. And I don't think there's anything here talking about that. What I think they need to do if they want to improve the shop is have cheaper ways to get gold lattices, and I think the only way to really do that is through lattice shards. So if there was a weekly top up pack, it's like $5, you get a 10 pull and you get 10 gold lattice shards. I think every type of spender would buy that type of pack, regardless if you're a very light spender to a whale. Now, free-to-play people, they're going to stay free-to-play. But if you want to have like a cheap pack that you can get weekly, I would definitely recommend something like that, because currently only things that truly matter are gold lattices and dupes, and dupes are only for the most competitive people in my opinion. So just want to mention that. And also, some people think dupes don't matter, and that is crazy. If you saw a maxed out max dupe Tiamat versus a maxed out Tiamat with only 3 dupes, you will see the difference. I assure you, it's a very big difference. It definitely is insane. So the next thing is anime skins. We know there's a few in the work. Smiley face. Now with this, what I will mention is that a lot of games on this level have cheaper skins that are pretty nicely developed, that are cheaper than the skins we currently have, which are recoloring. So with this, I would say be really careful with how you price these skins. we're definitely not in a situation where you could charge $50 for a Rosa Bikini skin, in my opinion. What I think they should implement is what they do in their other game, Sword of Convalaria. It's the only other XD game that I know that's a gacha. What they have for a lot of the skins is they have like a battle pass situation where it's like a little mini battle pass, and you unlock the skin immediately when you buy the battle pass, and it's like a $30 thing. I think they should have something like that in this game. If there was, say, like a Rosa pack, you get a bikini skin, and at the end of it, you get a gold lattice. I think everyone would buy that. I think if it was $30, you get some like reconfigured chips, a little bit of everything else, and then at the end of the pass, you get a gold lattice. I think everyone would buy the skin. So I definitely think you should take that approach with your previous games and do something like that. But you know, that's just a suggestion. You don't have to do that. But well, you do it in your other games. So if it's successful in your other games, probably be successful in this game. Just saying. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is probably going to be my biggest hot take. And that is PvP's a hot topic. A lot of people are saying that it's unplayable. They don't want to play RTA right now. And they're going to collaborate directly with top RTA players in the wider community to get community feedback on how to fix it. The problem with this, in my opinion, is because I feel like a lot of the balance update is because of community feedback. And if you scroll down, well, they did do the nerf based off of community feedback. And like, you know, you're going to fix something that became a problem because of community feedback by getting more community feedback. What I think they should do is introduce us to the R&D team of the PvP situation of the game, because if you want this to be the biggest part of the game and be the core part of the gameplay, we need to know that you're actually testing the balance patches, because currently I don't think there are anyone testing things, because Holden got a buff, and Holden was already S tier in my opinion before the balance patch even happened. And it was pretty obvious to me that with how the balance patch was like displayed, was a bunch of characters that just didn't need buffs got buffs. And of course they're going to dominate if you did that, right? Not only did you make it, if it was sort of like in this situation, and then there was the Rev nerf, and it kind of makes it like here, so they're like equal, and then you just buff the bruisers up to here. Of course everyone's going to play everything like this now. And one of the problems with that is, you know, a lot of people think there shouldn't be resets, and you know, your opinion on that, I don't really care at this point. What I do think is if there was more lattices that were in the pool, it would definitely help, because right now I think it takes between 4 and 6 weeks to max lattice a character, and the problem with that is we get, if they keep doing these double RGB banners plus the LD banner afterwards, we're getting 3 characters every 6 weeks. So if you're free to play, you can max out 1 character out of every 3 that comes out, and that's not including the old previous characters. So in that type of situation, it's just like, you know, one of the problems is if they keep doing like balance updates like this, there is a balance update every time it takes you to build 1.5 characters, I think. I think that's the rough estimation of that. It's just like, I think you just need to add more in, because even if you're a whale and you buy every single gold lattice pack, it doesn't feel like enough. And I sort of did the math, and you still will not, if you buy every gold lattice pack currently and just keep doing that, you will never catch up and fully build every character by the way they're doing the release cycle. So, you know, I think you should at least make it so if you buy every gold lattice in the shop for 6 weeks, you should be able to build 3 characters. And if you want to make it more free-to-play friendly, I think you should be able to build 1.5 characters every 6 weeks versus 1. So that way you can build, say, like 3 characters a season besides 1.5. Because like you're in a situation like me where I want to build Lilith, but like maybe Lilith is going to get a change, and by the time I actually invest the gold lattices into her, it's only going to be like a week of the season left, and it's like, what happens if I invest this into a character and something happens? Like, I'm just Nat King cooked. And I don't want to have that situation happen to me. So, like, if you just up the gold lattice a bit, I have a couple of ideas and I'm going to post it in my feedback on it, but I think a lot of things could have just been fixed by just making the economy a little bit better. I understand it's a resource management game and they do want to have that scarcity feeling, but right now it's just a little too scarce. It's just like give me a little bit more porridge, you know, just a little bit more, sir. Just a tiny bit. Also, they want to create feedback posts giving your thoughts on what a potential mid-season balance patch should look like. And I'm definitely going to post one of those tonight. So be sure to be there and yeah, let me know what you think of when I post my feedback, because I got a lot of things I want to say. So this part with the gear and customization options is a little bit red flag on the first thing. Now, the second thing with this module forge, it looks like it's going to be an event, and it's probably going to be recurring since every single event has so far been recurring. And it looks like something like in Summoner's War where you can like craft what you need. It'll be nice, you know, it'll definitely add some RNG, but it's just like a different way to get modules, which is definitely appreciated since most of the way you get modules now is through the 2x. So it's nice to have like maybe a week that isn't 2x where you can focus on modules besides shells. So that'll be really nice. But the module Essence shop getting overhauled is sort of a pay to win red flag for me, because currently right now I do think there needs to be more things for heavy spenders to buy, because currently right now it's only gold lattices, and for the most competitive people it's going to be dupe tickets. And now what we have here is that they're going to make the hardest to get thing in the game to get, which is module essence. Like, you get it on your first clears of thresholds, and I think you got some in the Wishbinder event, but I don't really know any other way to get it besides buying it in the weekly top-up shop. And now you're going to make it so like you can get sub attributes and main attributes, which is scary, right? Because, well, you could farm 2,000 pieces of modules and not get a single good piece, and knowing that you can put everything you want on the sub attributes is definitely going to make people spend money for sure. Like, this is definitely a great way to make money for your game, but it's just like, I don't know, like, how much is this going to cost? Because right now I think the module essence is way overpriced, and they need to add it in the union shop if you're going to have that, because this is just like too much of an advantage for people to have in PvP, in my opinion. So we just have to see what this is going to be, because right now this is a big red flag for me. And then new gear crafting system, it's just pretty much just like a event that other games have. It's nice they're adding it though. This one is a little crazy to me because a lot of people have been asking for them to nerf Rengo for a long time. It's been over a month and they haven't nerfed him. And what they did was, Rengo has been a wall for many of you, and that problem with PvP, with Revelation, I would say the biggest problem with it was because of the Rengo situation, because people couldn't farm lighthouses, and because they couldn't farm lighthouses, they couldn't deal with Rev. So it's just like, yeah, a lot of these problems happen from this, and instead of like coming out with a nerf, what they did was the next two units are going to be specifically designed to help crush Rango. And one of the parts of this that is kind of a red flag for me is that, well, they just had that Wishbinder event, right? So even though this game does give a ton of pulls, like, no one can say that there isn't a lot of pulls in Etheria. That's one of the biggest ways that they are generous with the game. But what happens with this situation is, well, people who wanted that gold lattice at 200 are probably really low. So if you've been struggling with this, you're free to play. You went for the Wishbinder event for the gold lattice because you need gold lattices to be competitive. And you see this, it's definitely a feels bad. Because also, is this actually going to help you crush Rengo? Because what it feels like they do when they do a lot of testing is they test characters that are max latticed. So can these characters clear Rengo with minimum lattice investment? You know, if this character can clear Rengo at 455, that doesn't actually help my Rengo clear, right? Because one thing with Rango is if you mismanaged your resources, that's why he's really difficult, right? Like, I could tell you that Rahu Holden plus 2 healers is going to get you that 100% on Rango like I have, but the thing is you're going to need a max lattice Holden, you're going to need pretty much a max lattice Rahu to do that, and there's just not enough resources. So, sure, this character here might be able to destroy Rango with investment, but the problem is there is no gold lattices. So if the character can't clear Rango at 111, I think this is a troll. This is a troll moment situation here. If these characters at max level still aren't good enough at 111, I think that's a problem, because there hasn't been a character like Freya who is incredibly powerful and viable in all aspects of PvE almost at 111. There hasn't been a character like that yet. Almost every single character that has come out has needed lattices in some shape or form. So just want to throw that out there on my thoughts on these two new characters. And she also kind of looks like Yelly, but with like different hair. And yeah, I think they could be a little bit more creative with the designs, if I'm being honest. Now, with this next thing, future events. Many people have been discussing dissatisfaction with RNG in our latest Dreamscape event. And what I would say on this is, what a lot of feedback I saw on events was they were just like sick of all the RNG of all the other events too. Because now that we've done a lot of these events multiple times, I have found them to really be varied. Sometimes I do Shell Story and I'm able to clear the whole shop. Sometimes I can only clear half. And it's the same thing with Chaku. And a lot of the times you see people give feedback, they're like, this event does really well, but this one doesn't. And, well, it's just all RNG at this point, I have found. The first time I did Meme Hunt, I got everything super quickly. Now, the second time it happened, I didn't even get most of the stuff. So, like, you know, the events just have too much RNG, and Dreamscape was a response to that by giving a ton of rewards. But the problem is even though they gave a ton of rewards, it cranked up the RNG to 10. So even though it was the best event we've gotten, it was really, really just doing the thing that people didn't like, which was RNG circus. So, you know, it is nice that they're going to like change it, but what I would have liked to do is just make a new event. Make a new event where you can clear everything. And the thing with this is, what I didn't like the most out of Dreamscape is I think Dreamscape would have been fine if the keys were 100 gems versus 300. I think 300 was way too overpriced, and hopefully they change that, but I highly doubt they will. So just throwing that out there on future events. Now, I'm looking forward to this because it says this is going to be massive, and there's going to be a lot of rewards in this with a smiley face, and smiley face means good, so hopefully we get a lot of rewards for the global launch. But one thing that is kind of weird to me is it says stay tuned for playing competitively against players in regions like China, Japan, South Korea, and more. Does that mean they're going to add them into our RTA pool, or is it going to be like a Pokemon situation where there's a JP format and a global format, and then at the World Championships they come together? So I would like that to be a little bit clarified, because it would be great to have more people in the RTA queue, just because in certain hours it is really hard to find a game. For me, it's after 1 a.m. It's pretty much impossible. So having these other areas will definitely help. The problem with that is the lattice investment. And since what we saw in the last EWS is they were using their own accounts, because they're just so far behind in terms of resources, like, I don't know how to balance that if they only come together for those other events, because, well, they're going to have just less resources. So it doesn't make sense for them to be in our RTA pool, because they're just not going to be at the same caliber of resources. So I hope that they get, like, if they are going to merge it, that they get a really big catch-up pool, which some people are going to see as unfair. So I don't know how they're going to fix that. I hope they either give them a lot of resources or they get their own servers, and then we just come together in big tournaments. But the big tournaments thing, they really have to figure out how they're going to deal with just how many resources they're missing, especially in like the first iteration of big tournaments. So that's it. And then what's next? Just, this is a snapshot. Thanks for being a huge part of this journey. And, you know, all in all, a lot of the stuff was just like, let us know how to fix it kind of deal. It's just like, I would have liked to hear things that you have ideas of steps to take to fix the situations people are feeling bad about. But what it seems like is a lot of the thing is just we want more feedback, which is not really fixing the things people have problems with. It's just being like, what do you guys think? So in terms of that, I think this was an L, but it also had a lot of W's. So in terms of like, was this a great announcement? Was this a bad announcement? It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. I'm just sort of like middle of the road because right now I want to see changes in a positive direction. And this says we're looking for things to change, but it seems that a lot of people have given very strong suggestions that would fix everything, but they're not doing that and they're asking for more suggestions. So like, I don't know. I don't know what's happening here. So only time will tell, but it is a marathon, I guess, and not a sprint. So we'll just see how that marathon continues.